One you probably do for 8, 9, 10 hours a day without a second thought. That raises your risk of dying early by more than almost anything else on your medical chart. You're going to want to argue with me. Here's the myth. People think the dangerous habits are the dramatic ones. Smoking, drinking, eating fried food every night. Those matter, yes. But the habit that is quietly rewriting your biology after age 70 isn't dramatic at all. It doesn't smell like smoke. It doesn't show up on a liquor bottle. It looks like rest. It looks like comfort. It looks like your favorite chair. It's sitting. Prolonged, uninterrupted sitting. And if you're over 70, your body is not whispering about this problem anymore. It is begging you to stop. Let's be precise, because vague warnings don't save lives. Numbers do. A landmark study published in JAMA Internal Medicine tracked older women using hip-mounted movement sensors, not questionnaires people fill out from memory. It found that women who sat for more than roughly 11 hours a day had a significantly higher risk of death over the following years compared to women who sat less than 4 hours a day. And the difference held up even after accounting for how much they exercised. Let that sink in. Exercising didn't cancel out the damage. You could go for your daily walk and still be in danger if the other 10 hours of your day were spent motionless. This is why doctors have started calling sedentary time the new smoking. Not because sitting kills you the same way a cigarette does, but because both share the same signature. Slow, invisible, cumulative damage that doesn't hurt today, and then arrives all at once as a stroke, a fall, a blood clot, or a diagnosis you didn't see coming. And after 70, your body has far less room for error. Muscle mass that took decades to build can decline within weeks of inactivity. Blood that once flowed easily now pools. Bones that once repaired themselves now weaken permanently. The clock isn't just ticking after 70. It's ticking faster for every hour you stay still. So today, I'm not going to lecture you. I'm going to show you exactly what happens inside your body during prolonged sitting, hour by hour, system by system. And then I'm going to give you a plan disappearing faster than you think. After age 70, the average adult is already losing muscle mass at a rate of roughly 1 to 2% per year, a process doctors call sarcopenia. That number sounds slow. It isn't once sitting enters the picture. Research on bed rest and prolonged inactivity in older adults has shown that muscle mass in the legs can drop measurably within just 10 days of significantly reduced movement, not months, days. For a 35-year-old, that muscle often comes back quickly once they're active again. For someone over 70, studies consistently show the regrowth is slower, partial, and sometimes never fully recovers. Dr. Wayne Campbell, a professor of nutrition science who has studied muscle loss in aging adults, has been quoted describing bed rest in older adults as capable of triggering muscle loss at a pace that would take years to replicate through aging alone. Why does this matter for your daily life? Your leg muscles are what stop you from falling. They're what let you get up from the toilet, catch yourself on a curb, or push yourself out of a car seat. When those muscles weaken from sitting, you don't just get a little slower. You cross a threshold where a stumble that used to be nothing becomes a hip fracture, and for adults over 70, roughly 1 in 4 who fracture a hip die within a year of that injury, according to data cited by the National Institute on Aging. That is not a small risk. That is a habit deciding whether you live independently or not. Warning #2, your blood is turning against you. When you sit for long stretches, blood flow in your legs slows down dramatically. Your calf muscles are supposed to act like a second heart. Every time you stand, walk, or flex your ankle, they squeeze blood back up toward your chest. Sit still for 2, 3, 4 hours straight, and that pump shuts off. And the result is blood pooling in your lower legs, and for older adults, this raises the risk of deep vein thrombosis, blood clots that form in the leg and can travel to the lungs, causing a pulmonary embolism, which can be fatal within minutes. This isn't just an airplane seat problem. Hospitals see it in patients on long bed rest, and researchers have documented the same clotting risk in otherwise healthy older adults who simply sit for extended, uninterrupted periods at home. On top of that, prolonged sitting is associated with poorer blood sugar regulation. Studies on breaking up sitting time with short activity breaks have shown measurable improvements in post meal blood sugar and insulin levels in older adults, meaning uninterrupted sitting doesn't just affect your legs, it affects how your entire body processes the food you eat every single day, quietly nudging you toward type 2 diabetes or making existing diabetes harder to control. Warning hash 3. Your heart is working against the closed door. Cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death for Americans over 65, and sedentary behavior is now recognized by the American Heart Association as an independent risk factor for heart disease. Independent meaning it raises your risk even if your cholesterol and blood pressure look fine on paper. Here's the mechanism. In plain terms, physical inactivity is linked to arterial stiffening. Your arteries are supposed to expand and contract with each heartbeat, cushioning the pressure. When you don't move for hours at a time, that flexibility declines faster. Stiffer arteries mean your heart has to pump harder to push blood through your body, which over years contributes to high blood pressure. And high blood pressure is the single largest driver of stroke risk in older adults. Dr. Ai-Min Lee, an epidemiologist at Harvard Medical School, who has published extensively on physical activity and mortality, has stated that even light activity, simply standing or shifting position, appears to interrupt some of the metabolic slowdown that comes with sitting. This is the part that should genuinely alarm you. You can be taking your blood pressure medication exactly as prescribed, and prolonged sitting can still be working against that medication every single day in the background. Warning hash 4. Your brain is losing ground. This next one surprises most people because we think of sitting as a body problem. It isn't. It's a brain problem too. A study out of UCLA examined sedentary behavior in adults aged 45 to 75 and found that more time spent sitting was associated with thinning in the medial temporal lobe, a brain region critical for forming new memories and one of the first areas affected in Alzheimer's disease. This relationship held even in people who exercise regularly, suggesting that sitting itself, separate from lack of exercise, has a distinct negative relationship with brain structure. The proposed reason is blood flow again. Movement increases blood flow to the brain and stimulates the release of proteins like BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which supports the growth and survival of neurons. Sit still for most of your waking day, and that stimulation drops off. Over years, that's not a small effect. That is a measurable contributor to the memory lapses so many people over 70 write off as just getting older. Warning hash 5. Your mood and your mind are paying a hidden price. Last on this list, and often the most overlooked, prolonged sitting is consistently linked to higher rates of depression and anxiety in older adults. Multiple studies tracking sedentary behavior in adults over 60 have found that those with the highest amounts of daily sitting reported significantly more depressive symptoms than their more active peers, even when the sitting itself wasn't due to illness or disability. Isolation plays a role here too. Sitting for hours, often alone, in front of a television, removes the social contact and sense of purpose that structured activity, a walk with a neighbor, a trip to the store, gardening naturally provides. For adults over 70, loneliness has itself been identified by the U.S. Surgeon General as carrying health risk comparable to smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. Sitting doesn't just physically immobilize you. Left unchecked, it can quietly immobilize your social world too. If even one of those 5 warnings hit close to home, I want you to do something right now. Before you keep watching, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, I break down exactly what the research says about the habits quietly shaping how long and how well you live. Not fear-mongering, not vague advice. Real numbers, real studies, real steps you can take today. If this channel's already helped you once, let it help you every week. Subscribe now, then come right back, because the next part of this video is the part that actually changes your life. Let me tell you about a man I'll call Robert. He's a composite. His story reflects patterns seen across many real cases in aging research, not one specific individual. But I promise you, if you're over 70, some part of this will feel familiar. Robert was 74, retired from a career in accounting, living alone in Ohio since his wife passed 2 years earlier. His days had a rhythm: coffee, the recliner, the morning news, more television, a sandwich for lunch eaten in the same chair, an afternoon nap, dinner, more television. He walked to get his mail. That was, most days, the extent of his movement. He wasn't sick. He wasn't in pain. He felt, in his words, fine. 18 months into this routine, Robert stood up too quickly to answer the phone and felt his left leg buckle beneath him, not from a stroke, not from a fall he could point to, but from muscle weakness that crept in so gradually. He never noticed the strength leaving. He caught himself on the counter. This time, his doctor, reviewing his chart, didn't find a single new diagnosis. Blood pressure was climbing slowly over 2 years, exactly as we described. Blood sugar was edging into pre-diabetic range. His grip strength, tested with a simple hand dynamometer, had dropped compared to 2 years earlier. None of it dramatic enough to trigger an emergency. All of it consistent with one thing: a body that had spent 18 months sitting. What Robert didn't have was a heart attack, a stroke, or a hospital stay yet. What he had was a body quietly building toward one of those outcomes, the way water quietly rises behind a dam before anyone notices the danger. His doctor didn't prescribe a new pill. She prescribed movement, specifically breaking up his sitting every 30 minutes. Robert thought it sounded almost too simple to matter. It mattered. Within 3 months of consistently standing and moving every half hour, his blood pressure readings improved enough that his doctor held off on adding a second medication. His grip strength, a genuine marker researchers use to predict mortality risk in older adults, began climbing back. He wasn't running marathons. He was simply refusing to let his body sit still for hours, uninterrupted. Robert's story isn't rare. It's common, which is exactly why it's dangerous. The damage from sitting doesn't announce itself with a single dramatic event. It builds silently until the day it doesn't. Here is what I want you to understand before I give you the plan. You do not need to become an athlete. You do not need a gym membership. You do not need to walk 5 miles. The research on this is remarkably encouraging. What matters most isn't how much you exercise, it's how often you interrupt sitting. Step 1, the 30-minute rule. Studies on breaking up sedentary time have shown that standing up and moving for just 2 to 3 minutes every 30 minutes measurably improves blood sugar control and circulation in older adults compared with sitting for hours uninterrupted. Set a timer. When it goes off, stand. Walk to the kitchen. Water a plant. March in place during a commercial break. The specific activity matters far less than the interruption itself. Step 2, stand before you need to. Don't wait until your legs feel stiff. By the time you feel discomfort, blood has already been pooling for a while. Build standing into moments you already do daily. Every time the phone rings, every time a commercial starts, every time you finish a page in your book. Step 3, turn necessary tasks into movement. Fold laundry, standing at a counter instead of sitting. Peel vegetables, standing at the sink. Talk on the phone while walking slowly around the room instead of sitting in the same chair. None of this requires extra time in your day. It requires shifting how you use the time you already have. Step 4, walk with a purpose. Twice a day, if you can. The CDC recommends at least 150 minutes of moderate activity per week for older adults, which breaks down to roughly 20 minutes a day, and walking counts. A short walk after breakfast and another after dinner accomplishes this without needing a single exercise session that feels intimidating. Step 5, track it, don't guess it. A simple pedometer or a doctor-recommended activity tracker removes the guesswork. Most people significantly overestimate how much they move in a day. Seeing the real number is often the single biggest motivator for change because you cannot fix what you refuse to measure. Step 6, recruit accountability. Tell a family member you're doing this. Ask a neighbor to walk with you twice a week. Isolation is one of the reasons prolonged sitting happens in the first place. Solving it socially solves 2 problems with 1 habit. None of these steps require permission from a doctor to start today. If you have a heart condition, joint replacement, or balance concern, Absolutely check with your physician about intensity, but standing up every 30 minutes is safe for the overwhelming majority of adults, regardless of age or condition. I want to leave you with this. The habits that quietly end independence after 70 rarely look dangerous while you're doing them. They look like rest, they look like comfort, they look like nothing at all, which is exactly why they're so easy to ignore and exactly why your body has to beg this loudly to get your attention. You've already done the hard part today. You watched this, which means some part of you knew this mattered. The next part is smaller than you think. Stand up right now before you do anything else. Walk to the kitchen, set a timer for 30 minutes. That's it. That's the beginning of reversing everything we talked about today. Your body isn't asking you to run a marathon. It's asking you to stop sitting still while it fights for you in silence. Give it that much starting right now. If this video gave you something worth acting on, subscribe, share it with a parent or a neighbor who needs to hear it, and I'll see you in the next one, where we'll break down the next hidden habit standing between you and the years you still have ahead.